Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Thought Leadership session. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, Kemi, especially with the time difference and the early call. So for all of our viewers, today we have two very special guests. Actually, one very special guest, Jeff is not around, right? All the way from the US, as well as our CEO, Sim Jianmin from SourceSage. So as an expert in this field, we are hoping that Kemi will be able to provide us some good insights on like the overseas markets. What is it like, and maybe how best like local businesses in Singapore can actually reach out to them. Right. Also,
Right.
you guys are in a really exciting business selling toys, am I right?
Yes.
Yes. And I even heard like Kemi has even been on national TV as well. Could you tell us a
Yes.
little bit more about yourself or like, maybe how you started this business?
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. My name is Kemi Tignor, and I'm the founder of Little Likes Kids. We're based in Washington, D.C., here in the United States. And I really started the business, based on my experience raising my son, Henry. I just thought that there were activities and games and puzzles that he liked that I didn't really see out on the market. And I wanted to bring those products to life that I thought sort of were reflective of him and his wide variety of friends. And so I started Little Likes Kids, and we make puzzles, games, holiday items, tabletop accessories for kids ages 6 and under.
Okay. This sounds like super interesting. So like it wasn't available in the market, so you decided to
That's
make it
right.
yourself.
That's right.
Super eventful. Okay. Have you like used any kind of like digital tools like in your business before? Like how did you actually started to
Yes.
digitize like your business?
That's right. So, when we first started, I sort of had to go around to various, toy shops and manufacturers that I had access to just to get some sense for, what products work well, what would sell in the market, what sort of things might be missing. So I did all that. I was able to reach back out to these people who advised us when I had prototypes and things in hand. And I actually started offline, of course, selling my products directly to customers. Here in Washington, D.C., we have a number of outdoor markets that are, they're outdoor markets, but because they're sort of nicely curated and run by sort of artsy like people, they're kind of they attract a really interesting sort of well-heeled audience. So I went out to some of the very popular farmers markets in the neighborhoods here in Washington, D.C., and set up my booth alongside other artisans, people who are either making like craft foods or like I tasted my first cold brew coffee from like a new emerging roaster. And just met all sorts of interesting people, and I had a chance to directly get my market in front of young families who are coming out on Saturday mornings to get coffee or baguettes or whatever, and some cool new product. And the reception was really strong, so that was good. I knew that we were onto something, that I was making these puzzles and games that had sort of more modern scenes, a variety of different kids with different sort of skin tones and from different cultural backgrounds. And the groups that I was seeing at the market sort of reflected that, these young, very sort of diverse, multicultural families. So, all right, I was onto something. Then I reached out to, independent retailers. So we got ourselves into the largest bookstore here in Washington, D.C., Politics and Prose. And, I went down, with my bag of goods and met with the buyer in the children's department. And she immediately lit up. She said, "This is what we need. Our children's department has all of these cool, modern sort of books and topics, but we're expanding into puzzles and games. And in that space, it's kind of, it's kind of vanilla. It's not really sort of as interesting as our book section. So she was on board. We continue to this day to do really well with bookstores. And we picked up Powell's Books recently in Portland, Oregon. Just really great things. So then I was getting myself into independent retailers. I started to do trade shows, and there we were picked up by even more retailers. And I wasn't paying too much to the digital side, to sort of your point. And it quickly became clear to me that I was going to have to figure out how to advance my e-commerce strategy sooner rather than later. I'm very interested in building a real company and a real brand that people can see and touch and feel. But the online marketplace is just so much more accessible for building your brand and getting out to as wide an audience as possible quickly. So I still feel like I've just dabbled in e-commerce because I'm selling through like third-party platforms. So that allows me to use those groups as, sort of my marketplace. There's an existing marketplace, and they have existing fulfillment sort of mechanisms. And so it was easy for me to sort of like plug and play. So I sell on Amazon, and I manage my own Amazon store. And then I sell through Etsy. So those are the two sort of biggest online, sort of e-commerce market sort of channels that I sell through. I am very excited for what those platforms allow me to do as I still am working to build a brand and develop new product and, really learn the craft. It gives me an outlet to sell and an outlet and an opportunity to bring in cash, right? And so that cash from those sort of third-party platforms is what I'm using to sort of put back into the company and grow. So I'll say that eventually I'm told that you'll really want to be building out your own e-commerce website and handling the fulfillment and but I just assume that when I'm large enough, I will see and understand that I've sort of reached that sort of economies of scale where it will make sense. You asked me about being on national television, and that was very exciting. We were on Good Morning America just before the Christmas holiday. The host, Tori Johnson, sort of reached out, really liked sort of what I was doing, and invited me to come and be on the show. My products were on the show. She walked through because, the pandemic. But so we were on television, and we sold, thousands of units within, sort of a 3 to 4 day period. It was really exciting. There was a lot more customer interaction because you were selling directly to customers. And, I just saw how much value I was getting being a partner with these sort of third-party platforms. It's a big lift to try to do that all yourself. But of course we did it because the national exposure was incredible. And it was just a really fun time.
Right. Like, were there like any difficulties that you've experienced in the course of the business, like with regards to like supply chains and all that, especially with like the whole COVID situation?
Yeah, for us, the greatest, challenge early on was, getting access to capital to purchase inventory. So while we did, we had a couple of containers come in just before the Good Morning America sale, and they were delayed. But I don't, we made it just by the skin of our teeth. But that is something that I can imagine and I actually know because I'm, involved with the trade association here in the toy industry, and I've heard the stories from some of these larger toy manufacturers. So I know that that is an issue. I appreciate that going forward. I'll probably want to think a little bit more about where my goods are stored when they come in. It's a big country. Right now, everything that I have coming in comes to the East Coast. But I know that there are partners who could maybe sort of service our needs on the West Coast. And really my back end, partners at Amazon, they do that. I mean, I can see them shipping the things all across the country. So we're covered in that way because our partners have built those sort of back end networks that we can reach customers across the country quickly. But no, for us, our greatest challenge is, financing those first inventory purchases. Going forward, the way it works is, you get purchase orders from retailers. They're legally binding contracts, and so I'm now at the place where I'm purchasing anything that I need based on the orders that I receive from retailers or the supply I know that I need to maintain for my e-com sales. A lot of the platforms provide cash for inventory purchases. I didn't have to rely on them. My fulfillment partner had that as a service for their partner sort of manufacturers. So there's a lot of different people who are looking to finance inventory, starting with, a bank if you happen to have that kind of a relationship. But, all of the procurement platforms are trying to offer cash. There's small companies that are offering, cash for inventory purchases. But I was able to use my fulfillment partner for that. And now I'm sort of off and running.
Right. Actually, since like we're on this topic, right? Kemi, you mentioned that you wanted to go online and have your own store like eventually. Correct? Because now you're using like third-party
That's right.
software providers, right? Do you actually have an idea of like what Jimin does? Actually, because I think he might have a very good way to actually help you achieve your own online store.
Yes,
Right?
I want to hear. I
Maybe
want to
you
hear
can
all about
like
that.
share a little bit more about what you do, so Kemi has a good idea.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, thanks, Kemi, for mentioning these few points. What we see over here when I moved back from the US and, after studying in UK back to Singapore is that a lot of mom and pop shops over here and small, medium businesses are actually leveraging on third-party marketplaces, right? So back to your point where, third-party marketplaces like Amazon, even in Singapore, or even not really eBay here, but there's another platform called Lazada over in Singapore, are huge marketplaces where you can think of them as huge department store with a lot of foot traffic or online traffic in the online sense, right? To help to draw in all those customers to you, right? To your shops and online stores. And I think once these stores actually reach a certain level of brand maturity online, they may want to think about taking out the merchant discount rate away from these third-party marketplaces and start creating their own brand on their own. It could be a SourceSage powered online store in that sense, right? Or it could be powered by some other platforms like there's Shopify or even Ecommerce over in the US. And what we realized was that by taking out that extra margin, firstly, of course, you could increase your gross margin of your business. Secondly, in terms of creating a long-lasting brand, what they see is probably not Amazon, where the customers are owned by Amazon, but the customers can finally follow your brand on your own platform or website, and then the customers' data and all the inventory data can be stored and owned by yourself, right, on your own platform in that sense. So I think that's a very good point. And I think the second point that Kemi brought up, and also for the benefit of the audience as well, is logistic. I think in the 2020 year, which was last year, we saw a lot of supply chain disruption with regards to the main manufacturers delaying the supplies from, say, China and other places in Asia to customers in US and Europe. And of course, in that sense, what we realized was that not just in terms of supply chain disruption, but also in terms of financing, a lot of companies also face a cash crunch issue. And that was when, we realized that even in Southeast Asia, or even in Asia Pacific, there are actually fulfillment partners that started to provide an additional service on top of what they're doing on the logistics space, which was financing, which traditionally was the area for financial institution. But of course, financial institution being banks, big banks, they used to be very conservative. But right now, of course, with the fintech, sort of revolution from startups and also from big boys and big players, we start to see more flexibility in terms of loans and financing for small businesses in Asia. And of course, I think in US that there is also a revolution towards that angle. So I guess that's something probably we can consider, or you can consider later on when you start building your own website or online store in that sense. Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I think like Antimin does have a lot of experience in this area, and he's able to give you like consultations on how exactly you want your website to be. He can customize it all and have all your different features done out for you as well. Yeah, so now on to like a question I think a lot of the audience will be waiting for is like, Kemi, are there some kind of trends that you see or are seeing in the US that's going on or is hoping to see with regards to like e-commerce and online businesses?
Well, I guess there is, here in the United States, I'm hearing a lot about, sort of the back end now for e-commerce. So, there's, a lot of tech, has sort of matured to a certain point. And there are a number of small manufacturers, and there's a real interest in connecting, with, small brands and building a sort of community, with other people. And what I see happening in the back end is people right now are very interested in the supply chain, right? So, they're very interested in fulfillment centers and sort of just really investing in the back end. You probably know that, even Amazon itself is sort of, buying up more warehouses, and they are building their own fleets so they can handle their own distribution. So I think here people are trying to sort of consolidate and, have a presence in all lines of the supply chain.
Right. Okay. Being like in the US, could you perhaps give like local businesses like here in Singapore a better idea on like how they can actually reach out to the US market or like internationally?
Well, I think that, branding, marketing, there's a lot of noise now, on, these e-commerce spaces. So I think that small and medium sort of size manufacturers are really looking to have a strong presence online, and they're in need of a lot of sort of, back end support for their social media and, their messaging. They need, to have technology in the back end that's helping them make the most of their interactions with customers. So they need their newsletters, their websites, their social media platforms to all sort of be in sync and sort of tracking results, with with their audience. So, that's sort of, where I am. Where I am right now. It has to do with branding, but every time I'm looking to do something on branding, it's really about, technology.
Yeah, it is about it these days. Right. And you do like all the marketing on your own?
I have a number of partners. So I have a copywriter, I have a graphic designer, but yes,
So it's a team.
Yeah, but I'm in this stage where, again, I'm sort of trying to bring all of that together. So, I have my social media, but I could also have my website sort of do a better job of interacting with my social media, right? So, but
Yeah.
that is like back end coding and tech. And, some people use my hashtags, they show up on my website. So those are the avenues that I'd like to sort of go down next. We're doing
Right.
some podcast advertising, which is really fun. So we bought some ad spend on Circle Round. It is the #1 children's podcast here in the country. And they're produced by WBUR, so the Boston Public Radio.
Okay.
And it's really, really fun. And, we're just doing it, no holding back. But there's more that you could do if you had a more sort of dynamic website in terms of when those people hear about me, the kind of experience they could have when they look me up on the website. So
Right.
there's a lot more for us to do with technology and our branding.
Actually, like just a curious question. Are like podcasts like the #1 go-to like media to get like information?
Yes. Well, they're so sort of sophisticated to the various media channels here in the United States. I mean, it
Right.
depends on, what and who your audience is. I mean, there are still people who are in talk radio who manage to do just fine, even though I've never listened to a radio program in years. Um, so, there's still television. There are, and then social media. Of course, social media is huge. So I would think that, the social media is like #1, your various websites, but podcasting is, it hits a smaller segment of the population right now. But I think that they have captured that audience's attention completely. So it's a
Right. I
very
think it's also
engaged.
because you can get
Yeah.
like more information out to
Yeah.
them as
Oh,
well,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In Singapore, we don't have that big a podcast culture yet, but I think that's
Hmm.
one of the up and coming things that we can actually look at.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right, that sounds great. Thank
yeah.
you, Kemi, once again for like all these interesting like informations and wonderful ideas. We hope
Yeah.
that they've been like helpful like to our audience, and we wish you all the best over in the US. Tim, do
Yes.
you have
Thank you so
anything that you
much.
want to add
Yeah, thanks a lot,
to
Kemi,
Kemi?
for sharing your insights. I think just one last point on my
Yes.
end, which was
Yeah.
interesting, right? Because I think as compared to Singapore, which is a very small market, I mean, population of around 5 million or slightly more than 5 million in the next 5 years. I think US is a much more diverse and bigger market in that sense.
Mhm.
Have you ever thought about, say, if you were to expand out of the US, how will it look like? Because yes, digital is able to help you to reach out to customers from across the world, definitely, but of course logistic, that has to be taken care by a fulfillment partner. And then have you thought about then in terms of the interaction with different customers of different cultures or even different currencies where they have to pay from, how would that actually interact as a business, right, for yourself? Have you ever considered about scaling up to other countries?
Yes, and we have to think about sort of trademarking issues
Yeah.
and regulation. But because my sort of social media following, I already interact with so many. I have a lot of mommy influencer friends, right? So
Yeah.
I have a lot of mommies who are in the UK and on Australia and Canada. So, I can see that there's a market out there. And from my experience, the sort of more boutique level manufacturers, they really look to partner with like private equity sort of
Yeah.
firms. And they say, okay, well, that's the value you can bring. If you build out this international market, for me, then we can sort of, share profits and things like that. So I think that I'm sure it will be, right now, the way that the fulfillment channels are sort of being purchased and sort of consolidated, surely somebody is going to, they're already linking from coast to coast here in the United States. Surely someone's going to
Mhm.
then start to link overseas. In which case, if you have that center spoke when you're doing your ordering, And that person who's managing your fulfillment would then just have inventory shipped to, sort of points around the world. Right now, there's a great platform that I'm on called Fair.com, and it's a B2B platform, and it's for wholesale buying. So it's retailers who are coming in and connecting with manufacturers, and it operates just like, Amazon. I mean, you go on, you look at a class of vetted and verified manufacturers, and you can purchase from them wholesale. They've opened up the Canadian market to us, so that's fine. And they print out on the back end, everything you need for sort of that shipment. They just opened up the UK. I am not going to sign up for the UK version because toys, unlike clothes and jewelry, lots of regulations, and I've sort of paid and invested in the ones so that I'm conforming to these sort of North American standards. So, but in any case, those things are starting to happen. And that platform is fronting the cost. They're saying, just go ahead to the UK market. We're going to handle all the costs because, they're obviously experimenting and tinkering. But I imagine once you're able to, once somebody makes it a little bit more feasible and streamlined to ship your goods at the point of purchase around the world, I think that's what will really sort of break open that sort of international exchange and commerce amongst small and medium-sized manufacturers.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I think it's also the dream of a lot of small medium enterprises, including ourselves, right, as a tech company, right, to start, grow, and then scale businesses. I mean, from Singapore itself, because market is already that small. I mean, from first day onwards, we have to start about scaling to different parts of, say, Southeast Asia, which is, I think culturally very diverse as well in terms of not just the regulation, but in terms of cultures and what people like or dislike in that sense. I would imagine that, of course, toys is a regulated industry in different parts
Yes.
of the world, and including in Singapore, I believe there are regulations as well for selling toys here. But hopefully one day we'll be able to see your products over here in Singapore.
Yes.
Yep. And then so I don't have kids, but hopefully my friends' kids will be able to purchase some toys from you as
Yes.
well. Yeah. So
Yes.
once again, thank you very much, Kemi, for sharing your ideas and thoughts. I think it's important at this point in time because of COVID situation that I think people needs to have the dream, right, in terms of going online, starting to take the step forward, start their own businesses, create employment for yourself and for the whole community as well. I think it's a good
That's right.
venture, including myself. I started business 6 years ago, and now we are still ongoing and scaling and expanding our team. So thank you for that. And of course, if there's any opportunity for collaboration ongoing, we can explore more opportunities together. Definitely. Yep. Over to
Sounds
you,
wonderful.
Ethelyn. Yep.
Thank you
Okay.
guys so much for having me.
Yes, I think we have now come to the end of the session. And like for our viewers, do continue to stay tuned to our thought leadership series. We will be having like a combination of both webinars and individual thought sessions like this one today with Kemi, right? So coming up on our YouTube channel. That would be very helpful if you are looking to digitize your business. If you have any like questions or any topic that you like us at SourceSage to touch on, do leave a comment below on our YouTube video, and we'll get back to you soonest.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for watching and goodbye.
Thank you.